So you've been there, right? You hit generate on an AI, you get this wall of text, and you just kind of stare at it thinking, now what? You know it's not quite ready for prime time, but how do you actually turn that generic draft into professional content that really truly performs? Well, let's get into it, because the data shows a surprisingly clear step-by-step path to take that AI-generated text and make it something an expert would be proud of.
First things first, let's be super clear. Not all AI is the same. Not even close. A recent medical study had actual experts rate content, and on a 5-point scale, one AI model, Manus, scored a fantastic 4.55. It actually beat the human writers. But then another model from Meta scored a dismal 1.53. That's not just a small gap. That's the difference between content that's genuinely helpful and content that's completely useless. And when we look at how this stuff actually performs out in the wild, it gets even more stark. A huge 16-month study of Google rankings found that content published straight from an AI with zero human touch ranked an average of 23% lower than human-written content. That is a massive performance gap. It basically shows that just hitting publish on raw AI output can seriously work against you.
So here's the deal. Relying on raw AI output is a huge gamble. You might get something amazing, or you might get something that actually hurts your credibility and your performance. The quality is just all over the map. But what if the problem isn't really the AI itself?
This is where we get the big aha moment from the research. The whole debate isn't really about AI versus human. The real conversation is about pure AI versus AI assisted. Pure AI is exactly what we were just talking about. You copy, you paste, you publish, and you cross your fingers. But AI assisted? That's a whole different ballgame. That's where a human editor takes that AI draft and really, substantively, improves it.
And this chart just lays it out perfectly. Let's say human-written content is our baseline, right? As we saw, pure AI content underperforms by a whopping 23%. But now look at the AI-assisted content. It's just 4% behind the human baseline. It performs almost identically. This tells you everything. The secret weapon isn't replacing the human, it's using the human as a superpowered editor.
Okay, so if the human editor is the key, what are they actually doing that makes such a big difference? Well, it turns out it's not just about fixing a few typos or grammar mistakes. The real value, the thing that closes that huge performance gap, is all about how you edit. It's about the specific human touch you add after the AI has done its initial work. So how do you do it? A study from Digital Applied actually pinpointed a clear 4-step editing process for this exact thing. They call them the 4 transformations, a framework for turning that bland AI draft into a high-performing piece of content. Let's run through them real quick before we break them down.
All right, steps 1 and 2 are all about adding real substance. First up, substantive rewriting. This means you're changing more than 30% of the text. You're restructuring arguments, adding your own nuance, and killing that robotic, generic AI tone. Second, and this is huge, is original data integration. This is your secret sauce. You're adding your own data, unique case studies, or expert interviews, stuff the AI would have no way of knowing about. This is what makes your content one of a kind. Then, steps 3 and 4 are about building authority and getting strategic. You've got to add named expert attribution. Put a real person's name on it, give them a real byline, or weave in quotes from other experts. It just builds trust. And finally, and this is so critical, you do a search intent realignment. An AI might write about best running shoes by just listing tech specs, but you know the user is really asking which shoe is best for a beginner or which one is best for marathon training. You restructure the whole thing to answer the real question behind the search.
And this whole approach is completely backed up by the pros. As best-selling co-author Joshua Lisek says, the smart way to use these tools is for the prep work, the brainstorming, the research, the outlining, the actual writing, the part that adds that human perspective and nuance. That's where we shine.
It's garbage in, garbage out. A better first draft makes your editing job way easier. So instead of just a simple request, your prompt needs to be super specific. Define the exact tone you want. Tell the AI what cliches to avoid. Demand that it uses an active voice and gives you real-world examples. Starting with a strategic prompt like this one is going to save you a ton of time later on.
So we've covered the how. Now let's talk about the why. What is it at a fundamental level that makes this human touch so important? What's the unique advantage that we bring to the table that a machine just can't?
Well, this idea of a unique human advantage is totally backed by data on creativity itself. One study broke creativity down into 3 parts:
And when it came to things like elaboration and just not saying nonsensical things, the AI was actually pretty good. But look at the one area where humans just consistently blow AI out of the water: originality. And that's really the bottom line. AI is a master synthesizer. It's brilliant at taking existing information and restructuring it, refining it, and elaborating on it. But our core human advantage? It's our ability to generate truly new, unusual, and original ideas. That's the creative spark that an AI, just by its nature, really struggles to replicate.
This all really points to a new future, doesn't it? One that isn't about us competing with AI, but about partnering with it. It totally redefines the role of a content professional. You're not just a writer anymore, you're a strategist, you're an editor, you're a finisher. You're the one who provides that final 20% of the work that, it turns out, creates 80% of the value.
And just when you think you've got it all figured out, check out this final, fascinating twist from that medical study we talked about at the beginning. The evaluators were asked to guess if a piece was written by a human or an AI. The result was just stunning. Nearly 70% of them confidently misidentified the high-quality human writing as being AI-generated. They basically assumed that content this clear, concise, and well-structured must have come from a machine.
What that suggests is that the lines are getting really blurry. At the end of the day, quality is just quality, and it forces us to ask a totally new question. If an AI can reliably write the first draft, does your real, irreplaceable professional value now lie in that final